Layla Shaver here today, and I want to talk to you about outsourcing portfolio management. So many firms are doing it nowadays, and they are setting up these outsourced relationships in a variety of different ways, namely as co-fiduciaries, subadvisors, or solicitors, also known as promoters. So today we're going to talk about co-fiduciaries, subadvisors, and promoters. Oh my, that's right. So let's start with what these different relationships are. So let's start with the co-fiduciary. A co-fiduciary is exactly what it sounds like. They're your partner in crime. They're a fiduciary to your clients just like you are. You share legal responsibility in ensuring that those clients are getting what's in their best interest. You're both equally responsible for ensuring that the investments are not only suitable, but also in their best interest. So there's a shared legal responsibility there. Let's talk about subadvisors. This is probably the more common relationship you see with outsourced portfolio management. So a subadvisor is someone who is taking a portion of that portfolio management and they are maintaining a series of portfolios for you. You as the financial advisor are responsible for making sure that subadvisor is going to be a good fit for your client, that the portfolios they're managing are going to be appropriate for your client. You are doing the due diligence, you're vetting, you have the power to hire and fire them. The subadvisor's responsibility is to ensure that the portfolios are consistent with their suitability profile. So for example, if they have a portfolio that's meant for moderate investors, they have to ensure that the strategy, the securities, the risk profile, the time horizon, all of those are consistent with a moderate investor's profile. If it's not, let's say it ends up being more aggressive, then they are responsible for that discrepancy. But ultimately, you are the fiduciary. So there is a more limited legal liability when it comes to the subadvisor. So finally, there's also the solicitor, which is now known as the promoter relationship. In these relationships, you are in a relationship with a promoter who is sending you leads. That's it. They're introducing you to prospective clients. Those clients become yours. But you are paying the promoter a certain number of basis points, a share of the advisory fees, potentially even a one-time or fixed fee for those referrals. There are a lot of relationships out there that take advantage of this promoter relationship, but aren't true promoter relationships in the sense that they're really sub-advisory relationships. So you want to make sure you're being very clear in these contracts, whether you are a co-fiduciary, a subadvisor, or a promoter. Believe me, regulators are going to look at the contracts and then they're going to look at the actual services being provided. And if you have a promoter relationship with someone who's actually acting as a subadvisor, that entity is going to be held to the subadvisor standard, not the promoter standard outlined in your contract. So make sure you have a good understanding of what these three different types of relationships are and ensure those relationships with these third-party providers actually reflect it. So let's talk about some of the pros and cons of these different relationships. With a co-fiduciary relationship, you have shared legal responsibility, you are collaborating with another party, and by doing so, you're reducing your overall risk, right? So you have two companies looking at the same clients held to the same standard. If one misses something, it's likely the other will catch it, so reduced risk. Good news for co-fiduciary relationships. Now let's talk about some of the cons of a co-fiduciary relationship. In a co-fiduciary relationship, there's the potential for conflicts of interest. So in your ADV2A brochure, you have to talk about all your conflicts of interest, your outside business activities, blah, 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 blah. At least that's how your clients are looking at it, let's be real. But it creates additional complexity when you have two firms with multiple conflicts of interest, because your requirement from a regulatory perspective is mitigating those risks. So by having that additional conflicts of interest, different business models, you're also adding additional complexity to the relationship. What if your co-fiduciary disagrees with the determination you made for your client? Maybe they don't think the portfolio is appropriate given that client suitability profile. Additional complexity. Also, one of the other big cons of co-fiduciary relationships is the additional cost, not only to the firm, but to the client, of having two investment advisory firms that are equally responsible for their portfolio management. So, some good things, some bad things. Those are the pros and cons of co-fiduciary relationships. So let's talk about those pros of the sub-advisory relationship that I love so much. So the first one is you've got a lot of flexibility, right? So where you have a third party that's saying, for example, I have these 5 different portfolios I manage. Here's a suitability profile of those 5. Pick which one you want for your client. You have a lot of flexibility because there's a lot of sub-advisors out there who have a wide assortment of different portfolios and different strategies they're using. That offers you as a firm flexibility. It gives the investor a lot of options, which all just means kudos to you, financial advisor, that you can be so flexible for your clients. So the second thing that's really great about sub-advisors is that a sub-advisor is usually bringing a particular level of expertise or specialization that you may not have, which allows you, again, to have access to different strategies that benefit your investor without you having to learn about that specialization. So that's wonderful for you as the firm because it means you can offer great services to your clients. And of course, it always benefits the client. And because you have flexibility with a sub-advisor, if it doesn't work out, you can fire them and find another one to replace that sub-advisor. Finally, the other great thing about sub-advisors, especially when we compare it to co-fiduciaries, is you have lower costs, right? Because of their reduced risk, because of their reduced legal liability, they're responsible for the portfolios, you're responsible for best interest and suitability. The costs are lower. So you get the flexibility, the specialization, and a lower cost by using a sub-advisor. And that is good for your business, and it's amazing for your client. So let's talk about some of the cons of a sub-advisor. So one of the things that you lack with a sub-advisor relationship is control. So a sub-advisor is going to come to you and say, hey, here's my menu of portfolios. Take it or leave it. There may be limitation on how much specialization you can do within their portfolios. They may not allow, for example, a client to come in and say, hey, I don't want to invest in alcohol or tobacco products. So you don't really have a lot of control with your individual sub-advisor. The second potential con, which is actually similar to your co-fiduciary relationship, are conflicts. Conflicts. We have to disclose conflicts of interest, and your sub-advisors also have to do that in their Form ADV2A brochures. And you have to find a way to mitigate those conflicts of interest. And sometimes those conflicts can be too overwhelming to mitigate. So this is one of the other cons of using a sub-advisor. Some of the firms that we work with, they're using like 100 different sub-advisors. Can you imagine trying to manage 100 different sub-advisors, looking at their portfolios, looking at their strategies, making sure that they're still consistent with the risk profile that they've advertised to you of that portfolio? It can become incredibly overwhelming. And you are still the fiduciary to this client, so you have to do what's in their best interest. Having multiple sub-advisors that you utilize can be overwhelming and add a ton of complexity. So you have to make sure if you're going to utilize sub-advisors that you're very methodical and strategic in how you utilize them, who you utilize, and how many you're using with any given client at any one point in time. But as I said, I love the sub-advisory relationship. So finally, I want to talk to you about solicitors/promoters. Okay, why do I say solicitors/promoters? Because the SEC, when they updated the marketing rule, changed their damn name. So as if it wasn't confusing enough to change the rules, we're going to change names too. So there you go. Solicitor/promoter, which is what they're now known as. Fun fact for you. So promoter is someone that you compensate for leads, right? They're sending you prospective clients. You are paying them a fixed fee, a one-time fee, an ongoing fee, a certain number of basis points, whatever the case may be. And it's wonderful. They say, here, firm, here's a prospective client. And you say, great, here's money. I'm going to go take care of this client now. And that's it. The client's yours. You get to manage them from that point going forward. But there are some challenges with using promoters. In almost every state of the union, promotion of a firm solicitation for compensation is within the definition of what an investment advisor representative is. And IARs are regulated at the state level, not the federal level. So you have to look at individual states to determine whether or not your promoter has to be registered as an IAR. That's right. So those of you trying to use CPAs, trying to use lawyers, trying to use friends and family to send you leads, they may actually need to be licensed in order to do so. And it is your obligation as the firm that's compensating this person to ensure they're properly licensed and registered. Beyond that, though, it's a great way to grow your business and bring more clients into your firm. So there you go. Co-fiduciaries, subadvisors, solicitors / promoters. Those are the three big types of relationships we see when it comes to outsourcing, portfolio management, and bringing new clients in. You want to make sure you're picking the one that best fits the needs of your firm. And I will say, I vote for subadvisory relationships. But if you have questions about the type of relationships that will work best for you, or what your general compliance requirements are when it comes to maintaining and supervising these relationships, yes, you heard me right, supervising, give us a call today. We have an amazing team of lawyers and compliance officers ready to help you. Give us a call, 770-462-2118. Look forward to speaking with you.